The stars were quiet that night, just like they always were when he flew his small ship through the uncharted corners of the galaxy. He was alone, as he often was, charting planets that no human had ever seen. But on this night, something was different. A faint signal flickered across his scanner, weak, broken, almost like a whisper. Curiosity pulled him closer, and he followed the signal to a jagged planet at the edge of human exploration. When he entered the atmosphere, the view took his breath away. Sharp cliffs rose like the teeth of a giant, and strange, colorful storms danced across the sky. But something else caught his attention. A small figure moving near the cliffside, struggling to crawl. His heart skipped a beat. She was tiny, fragile, and alone. He landed carefully, his boots crunching against the rocky ground. The girl was trapped under a twisted piece of metal from a crashed ship, her skin shimmering faintly like moonlight on water. Her eyes were wide with fear, but there was a spark there too, a desperate hope that someone would come. He rushed to her side, lifting the metal with all his strength. "It's okay," he said softly, though he didn't know if she understood. She looked at him with those strange, glowing eyes, and for a moment, the universe felt impossibly large and impossibly small at the same time. Then she nodded, almost as if she understood his words in her heart. Once free, she stumbled to her feet, trembling. He reached out his hand, and she took it hesitantly. Her touch was cool, almost like a soft breeze, and yet it carried a weight of fear and hope that made his chest tighten. Carefully, he helped her to his ship. She clung to him, silent, yet he could feel her gratitude in every heartbeat and every small squeeze of her hand. During the long flight back, he tried to speak with her. Her language was strange, full of sounds he had never heard before. But slowly, through gestures and gentle words, they began to understand each other. He offered her food and water. She touched everything curiously, learning quickly. Every laugh, every small smile she gave him made the lonely hours of space feel warmer, brighter. At night, when the stars stretched endlessly outside the ship's windows, she would sit quietly staring at them. He imagined she was thinking of her home, her family, the life she had lost in the crash. He didn't know if he could ever explain to her the feeling in his chest, how deeply he wanted to protect her, to make sure she would survive no matter what. And she, in her silent way, seemed to understand. Weeks passed. He taught her how to live among humans, how to speak slowly and carefully, how to eat and drink and move safely in a world that was alien to her. Every day she grew stronger, more confident, yet she never lost the gentle, luminous innocence that had first drawn him to her. Finally, the day came when she had to leave. Her people had found her location, and a ship from her world arrived to take her home. He held her hands in his, unable to believe this moment had come so quickly. Her eyes, shining and full of unspoken emotion, met his. "I will never forget you," she whispered, her voice trembling but clear. "You saved me when I had no one." He swallowed hard. "I'll never forget you either," he said, though his voice was thick with emotion. As she walked toward the ship that would take her home, he watched her small figure fade into the distance, her ship rising into the sky and disappearing among the stars. The memory of her gratitude, her trust, and her fragile hope stayed with him, etched into his heart forever. He stood alone on that quiet, jagged planet, staring at the stars, knowing that somewhere out there, she survived because he had been there, and somewhere deep inside, he silently promised himself that if the universe allowed it, he would see her again. Life went on, as it always does, but he could never forget her. The little alien girl he had rescued from that jagged planet stayed in his mind, like a star that refused to fade. He continued exploring the galaxy, charting new worlds, meeting strange creatures, and witnessing the beauty and danger of space. Yet in every quiet moment, he wondered where she was, if she had survived, and what had become of the girl with eyes that shimmered like starlight. The years passed quickly, almost too quickly. Human settlements expanded across new planets, alliances with other species formed, and trade routes connected stars that once felt unreachable. Yet no matter how much the universe changed, the memory of that small, trembling hand in his own remained. He often imagined her growing up, learning to survive in her world, facing dangers he could only guess at, and becoming someone strong. He thought about her laughter, soft and musical, echoing in the empty halls of his ship. He remembered how she had clung to him in fear, and how her trust had been complete. That memory haunted him, a mix of warmth and longing. He often asked himself, did she ever remember him? Did she think of him as he thought of her? One quiet evening, while he was reviewing star maps, a strange alert flickered on his console. A vessel was approaching, but not any vessel he had seen before. Its design was unlike human ships, elegant, with curves that seemed alive, glowing softly in the void. Symbols adorned its hull, symbols he could not understand. His heart began to race, an unexplainable sense of familiarity tugging at him. The ship landed on a nearby planet, and he could not stop himself from rushing to the landing site. There, bathed in the glow of her vessel, stood a figure he could hardly recognize. She was taller now, poised, radiating strength. Her once small frame had grown into the commanding presence of a queen. Her robe shimmered softly like liquid starlight, and her eyes, the same brilliant eyes he remembered, were now filled with power and wisdom. He froze, unable to speak. The girl he had once held in his arms, the fragile, trusting child, now stood before him as a ruler of her people. Her gaze met his, and for a moment the years fell away. The memory of that first rescue, the fear, the trust, the laughter. They all returned in a rush that made his chest tighten. Do I know you?" he managed to ask, his voice shaky. Her lips curved into a small smile, though it was tinged with sadness and resolve. "You do," she said softly. "I promised I would never forget you. And I haven't." The words struck him like a thunderbolt. She remembered him. She remembered that night, that rescue, that fragile trust. And somehow, despite everything she had endured since then, she had returned. He wanted to run to her, to ask 1,000 questions at once, but he could not. Something in her stance, in the calm authority she carried, told him that she had changed. She was no longer the child in need of protection. She was a queen, a leader, someone who carried the weight of a world on her shoulders. And yet behind her regal mask, he sensed a hint of vulnerability. A flicker of something dangerous, something that had followed her across the stars. He did not yet know what it was, but he knew one thing. His life, the life of everyone around him, was about to change forever. He took a deep breath, feeling the familiar mix of fear and awe. The little alien girl he had saved had grown into someone extraordinary, and now she was here, standing before him, powerful and radiant. A living reminder that one small act of kindness could echo across the universe. He could not believe his eyes. The alien girl he had rescued so many years ago stood before him, no longer small or frightened, but tall, regal, and commanding. Her skin still shimmered softly under the light, but now it was the glow of strength and confidence, not fear. Her eyes, those same luminous eyes, locked onto his, and in them he saw recognition, memory, and something deeper. A connection that had survived time and distance. "It's you," he whispered, his voice trembling, caught between awe and disbelief. Memories flooded him. The crash, the jagged cliffs, her trembling hands reaching for his, her trust and her quiet laughter in the emptiness of his ship. He remembered how fragile she had been and how completely she had relied on him. Now that fragile girl had transformed into someone who carried the weight of an entire world on her shoulders. She smiled softly, a mixture of sadness and warmth. "I promised I would never forget," she said, her voice steady but carrying a gentle emotion that made his chest tighten. "I have returned because of that promise, because of you." He wanted to ask everything at once. How had she survived? How had she become a queen? Why was she here? But words failed him. He could only stare, struck by the incredible transformation. The girl he once held in his arms had grown into someone awe-inspiring, someone whose presence commanded attention without a single word. Yet beneath her calm and regal demeanor, he sensed hesitation. Something troubled her. A faint shadow crossed her expression, a flicker of worry that contradicted the air of confidence she exuded. He realized that while she had returned to him, she carried more than memories and gratitude. She carried burdens, responsibilities, and perhaps danger he could not yet understand. I never imagined I would see you again," he said finally, his voice low, filled with emotion he could not hide. You've grown so much." She tilted her head, her eyes softening for a moment. "I have had to," she said. "The universe is not kind. There are those who would see my people destroyed, who would take everything I care about. I have learned to survive, to fight, to lead. But there is something I cannot face alone." His heart tightened. He had always imagined her as small, defenseless, and needing protection. But now she stood before him, and though she was strong, There was still that same spark of vulnerability that had drawn him to her years ago. He realized that she was trusting him again, not as a child but as someone who needed him in a different, deeper way. Her gaze softened as she looked at him. "I came back for more than memory. I came back because I need help. And because I wanted to see you again. You were the first person who believed in me. You showed me kindness when no one else did. That is why you are here in my thoughts even now." He swallowed hard, emotions swirling inside him. Pride, awe, fear, and a quiet, unspoken longing. The little girl he had saved had returned, changed in ways he could barely comprehend, yet somehow, she still carried the same essence that had touched his heart all those years ago. And in that moment, standing face to face, past and present collided, he realized that this reunion was not just a meeting of old friends, it was the beginning of something larger, something that would pull them into a universe far more dangerous and incredible than he had ever known. The quiet between them was filled with unsaid words, memories, and the weight of destiny. He finally nodded, a decision forming in his heart. Whatever came next, he would stand by her. He had once saved her life, but now she was a queen, and he understood that his place was by her side, no matter what the stars might bring. The calm of the reunion shattered like glass. Alarms blared across the city, echoing into the night. He instinctively grabbed her hand, and for a moment time froze as their eyes met. She did not pull away. Instead, her grip tightened slightly, as if drawing strength from his presence. "They are here," she said quietly, her voice carrying the weight of command. "They have followed me across the stars. They want to take everything I have fought to protect." Outside, the sky glowed with the ominous shapes of massive warships, unlike any human or known alien design. They hung in formation above the planet, engines humming with lethal precision. He felt a shiver run down his spine. He had faced danger before, but nothing like this. Nothing that threatened not just him, but the girl he had saved so many years ago. Her eyes, those brilliant eyes that had once held fear and wonder, now burned with determination. She turned to him, her posture straight and commanding. "I cannot fight them alone. They will destroy everything if I refuse to act. I need your help." He nodded without hesitation, though fear curled in his chest. "Whatever you need," he said firmly. "I'll be with you. Always." Her expression softened for the briefest moment, and he saw the girl he once knew, the one who had clung to him, trembling and trusting. But that girl had been tempered by fire and responsibility. She was no longer just someone in need of protection. She was a leader, a strategist, and now a warrior facing impossible odds. They quickly moved to the command center. He watched her coordinate defenses, issuing orders to human soldiers and alien allies alike. Her mind worked with lightning speed, calculating the enemy's movements, predicting their strikes, and countering them with brilliance. Ships moved under her direction like pieces on a chessboard, each maneuver precise, deliberate, and deadly. He followed her instructions, piloting his small ship through the chaos, protecting vulnerable positions and cutting off enemy advances. He realized then that this girl, the alien he had rescued, was capable of incredible things. Her courage inspired everyone around her. Her presence gave hope, even in the midst of overwhelming fear. Yet beneath the calm efficiency, he could see the strain in her eyes. Every decision carried the weight of countless lives. Every mistake could be fatal. He wanted to shield her from that burden, to take it upon himself, but he knew it was impossible. She had to face it, just as she had always faced danger with courage beyond her years. For a moment he saw her pause, just for a heartbeat, her gaze sweeping over the fleet, calculating, deciding. In that pause, he remembered the girl clinging to him in the wreckage years ago, and he realized that same spark of trust had returned. She trusted him now, not as a child, but as an equal, as someone who could stand beside her even against the impossible. The warships began to descend, weapons glowing, ready to strike. She drew a deep breath and turned to him, her voice steady and resolute. "We fight together," she said simply. "No one faces them alone. Not anymore." He swallowed hard, gripping the controls of his ship. "Together," he echoed. And in that word he felt something shift in the galaxy, an unspoken promise that the bond formed years ago had survived time, distance, and danger. It was a bond that could now change the fate of worlds. As the first shots fired, lighting up the dark sky with deadly brilliance, he realized the truth. The girl he had once rescued was no longer helpless. She was a queen, a leader, and a force of nature, and he would fight by her side, not just to save her, but to honor the bond that had brought them together years ago. The sky exploded in fire and light. Warships clashed with a thunderous roar, and the stars themselves seemed to tremble. He gripped the controls of his ship tightly, heart pounding as enemy lasers cut across the dark expanse. She was at the center of it all, commanding her fleet with unshakable precision. The alien queen moved with a calm fury, her voice carrying through the comms to every ship, every soldier, every ally. "Hold the line. Protect the civilians. Push them back." Her orders were clear, direct, and every word carried the authority of someone who had faced impossible odds before. He watched her amazed. The little girl who had once clung to him now commanded an army, her mind sharp, her courage unbreakable. He maneuvered his ship through the chaos, following her directions to intercept enemy forces. Sparks flew as his ship dodged laser fire, and explosions lit up the void like fireworks of destruction. Yet through it all she never wavered. Her eyes scanned the battlefield constantly, calculating, predicting, leading. At one point her flagship came under heavy fire. He saw the massive enemy vessels closing in, their weapons aimed to destroy her command ship. Without hesitation, he thrust his ship between them and her, absorbing the impact of a direct blast. His shields flickered and sparks flew, alarms screaming all around him, but he held steady. "You cannot protect me forever," she shouted over the comm, though her voice carried not anger but determination. "I don't intend to," he yelled back, adrenaline surging. "We fight together." Her fleet adjusted, following her commands with renewed vigor. Together they turned the tide. He watched in awe as she orchestrated a series of maneuvers that trapped the enemy fleet in a deadly formation, leaving them vulnerable. Each strike she commanded was precise, deliberate, and devastating. Ships erupted in fire, enemy pilots fleeing or surrendering. Amidst the chaos he glimpsed her softer side, the same girl who had once trusted him with her life. She issued orders, but every so often she would check on her people, her soldiers, making sure no one was left behind. Her compassion had grown, but so had her strength. She was a queen forged by fire, but still capable of kindness. Hours passed like minutes. The battle raged, but slowly, methodically, the enemy began to retreat. She had not only defended her people, but had done so with brilliance, courage, and the kind of tactical mind that inspired loyalty. He had fought alongside her, but he knew the victory was hers. Her leadership had turned the impossible into reality. Finally, the sky cleared. The remnants of enemy ships fled into the darkness of space, their engines burning bright like dying stars. Silence returned, heavy and surreal. He and the Queen hovered above the planet, taking in the devastation, the cost, and the lives saved. She turned to him, her glowing eyes meeting his, and for the first time since the battle began, there was a hint of relief in her expression. "We did it," she whispered. Her voice was soft, almost vulnerable, carrying the weight of everything she had faced. He smiled, exhausted, yet filled with pride. "We did it together," he said, and in that moment he realized something profound. The little girl he had saved years ago had grown into a leader who could command fleets, fight impossible battles, and inspire hope across galaxies, and yet she still carried the same spark of trust and gratitude for him, the bond that had begun with a simple act of compassion. For a long moment, they just hovered, ships still trembling from the battle, the stars shining calmly above them, and he understood with a clarity that left him speechless that this was only the beginning. The universe was vast, full of dangers and wonders, but together, they had proven that courage, trust, and compassion could change the course of history. The battle was over, but the air still hummed with tension. Smoke and sparks floated across the sky, and the quiet after the storm felt surreal. He landed his ship beside hers, hands trembling slightly, though exhaustion weighed on every muscle. He wanted to speak, to say something, anything, but words felt too small for what he was feeling. She stepped out of her ship, her robes flowing like liquid light. The armor and command of a queen were still there, but beneath he saw the same girl he had held in his arms years ago, the one who had trusted him when she had no one else. Her eyes softened as they met his, shining with gratitude, relief, and something deeper, almost impossible to describe. I owe you everything," she said quietly, her voice barely above a whisper. "Not just my life, but who I have become." He shook his head, unable to believe her words. "You did all this yourself," he said, his voice steady but full of emotion. "I only helped once. You survived, you led, you fought, you earned everything." "No," she said firmly, stepping closer. "Without you, I would have died on that jagged planet. That night you saved me when I had no one. You showed me trust and kindness. That moment. It changed everything for me. It gave me hope. It gave me courage to survive, to grow, and to protect my people. I returned because of that moment. I returned to see you again, and to honor it." He felt a lump in his throat, emotions he hadn't felt in years flooding back. Pride, awe, longing, and a quiet, almost unexplainable love for the girl he had saved. The same hands that had once clung to him were now poised, graceful, and confident. But he could see the faint tremor of vulnerability, the echo of the child she once was. She reached out, touching his shoulder lightly, a gesture filled with unspoken memories. "I wanted you to know," she continued softly, "that your small act of kindness changed the course of my life. It created a chain of hope that brought me here, to you, to this moment." He looked into her eyes, seeing both the queen and the girl he had known. He realized that no matter how much the galaxy had changed, the bond they shared had remained unbroken. Time, distance, danger. It had all tested them, but it had also strengthened something rare, something precious. "You saved me first," she said, her voice trembling slightly now. "But you've also shown me that one person's courage can ripple across worlds. You've reminded me that even a single human can make a difference in the vastness of the stars." He smiled softly, his hand brushing against hers. "And you. You've reminded me what it means to fight for something bigger than ourselves. To care, to hope, to protect. That's human. That's us." For a long moment they stood there hand in hand, watching the wreckage of the battle and the calm stars above. The weight of the universe pressed down on them, but they were together, and that made all the difference. She finally let out a soft laugh, the sound light and musical, carrying a mixture of relief, exhaustion, and joy. "I cannot believe how far we've come," she whispered. "Neither can I," he replied, squeezing her hand gently. "But somehow, I think this is just the beginning." In that moment, the galaxy felt smaller, brighter, full of possibilities. The girl he once rescued, the queen who had returned, had reminded him of the power of trust, courage, and human compassion. And he knew, without a doubt, that together they could face whatever the stars might bring next. The galaxy was quiet now, but the memory of the battle lingered in every heart. Planets far and wide had felt the tremors of conflict, yet thanks to her leadership and their combined courage, countless lives had been saved. He stood beside her on a high balcony overlooking the city, the stars stretching endlessly above, and he felt a sense of awe he had never known before. She, the alien girl he had once rescued, now stood as a queen, a beacon of hope for her people and a symbol of unity for the universe. Her robes shimmered under the starlight, her posture regal yet approachable, and her luminous eyes reflected wisdom and warmth. He looked at her and realized that the small act of saving her years ago had changed not just her life, but the course of entire worlds. She turned to him, a gentle smile gracing her face. "You saved me once," she said softly, "but you also gave me a reason to believe. You taught me that even in the darkest times there is hope, and that one person's courage can ripple across the stars." He swallowed hard, feeling the weight of her words. "And you," he replied quietly, "have shown me what humanity can do. Even a single human can make a difference. You've reminded me that compassion, trust, and courage are the things that truly matter, things that can change the universe." They stood in silence for a moment, the quiet between them filled with unspoken understanding. Battles would come and go, stars would die and be born, empires would rise and fall, but the bond they shared, formed in that quiet moment on a distant, jagged planet, would endure. It was a bond forged in trust, tested in fire, and strengthened through courage. In the days that followed, humans and aliens alike celebrated the fragile peace she had secured. Her words inspired hope, her actions commanded respect, and everywhere she went, people looked at her not just as a queen, but as a living example of what one being could do when someone believed in them. And he was there watching her, proud beyond measure. The girl he once saved had become a force of nature, but the lessons she carried, the ones he had unknowingly taught her, remained deeply human. Later, when the celebrations had quieted and the stars hung still above, they walked together among the city lights. She stopped and looked at him, eyes soft and unguarded. "I returned to honor you," she said. "To honor the night you saved me. That act, it changed everything, and it reminds me always that even small kindness can create miracles." He took her hand, gently squeezing it, feeling the same warmth he had felt years ago. "And you," he said, "have reminded me why we fight, why we hope, why we reach out. You've shown me that trust and courage are never wasted, no matter how vast the universe may seem." She laughed softly, the sound like music among the stars. "Then we are both fortunate," she said, "because together we've proven that even the smallest acts can echo across worlds, that even one person, one human, can change the course of history." He looked at her, seeing the girl he had rescued, the queen she had become, and the hope she now carried for countless lives. And in that moment he understood something profound. The universe was vast, dangerous and unpredictable, but trust, courage, and compassion could light the darkest corners of it. As they stood together, hand in hand, the stars above seemed brighter than ever. The little alien girl he had saved had returned stronger, wiser, and radiant, and together they had shown that humanity, its spirit, its courage, and its heart could leave a mark across the galaxy. The universe had shifted forever. And it all began with one small act of kindness.